so I'm kind of thinking like on people kind of hero. You have a lot of notes.
All right. I'm about to start dual stream right now. I'm streaming to YouTube and Discord simultaneously. And I accidentally sent a whole notification to everyone, which I wasn't trying to do, but this interface, I was just getting used to it. Um, it's been 5 days, so I'd spent some time sort of catching up on the last 96 chapters that I just read. So I'll be reading about 16 more. Was it like eight? Uh, Whatever was that? 15, 16 chapters. I'm going to be reading 16 more chapters until chapter 120, 112 of Kurt's Vonnegut today. By the way, I am getting close to the end of Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle, so I am thinking about other books to potentially be reading after this. If you guys have any ideas on what I could be reading, um, and Leslie, wait, let me just make sure I'm spelling that correctly. Leslie Marmon Silko. Yeah, so these are some ideas that I have right now that I've been sort of like some books that have kind of come across my path through mostly through probably Reddit actually, but these are some books I've been hearing about recently that I maybe was thinking of reading, plus an already existing ranked list of books that I could be reading. So I'm sort of just processing what I could be reading after this. If you guys have any opinions on that, let me know what you think. Let me also separate out my Discord stage so that I can see it separately. Where are we here? Okay. Azure, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, so I have some. It's actually, it's just to be totally direct, it's actually really fun to have you here, to have somebody who's reading along with me, and I'm kind of open to thinking about the format besides the actual paced reading schedule. If there's other things we could maybe do, um, like a discussion is like the immediate top of mind idea. So if you happen to have any ideas for the format of this quote unquote book club, which isn't really a conventional book club at the moment, um, I'd be happy to consider some options. So with that bit of talk out of the way, let me catch us up on what I remember so far. So overall, the main thing is that now John or Jonah, whatever you want to call him, our kind of Ishmael-like survivor narrator, will is now the dictator, general, king, whatever, the authoritarian leader of San Lorenzo, and he got his wildest dreams. He got Mona, so he's getting everything he wants. And remember that his only intention at the very beginning was to write some book about the atomic bomb. And Felix Hoenicker, being one of the fathers of the atomic bomb, was the initial subject, but it keeps unraveling because he has these three children, and they have the Ice Nine, and then the narrator himself is becoming religious, and the main way that he's becoming religious, as it turns out, is he it's not for noble reasons. It's because he just loves this island chick, Mona, and she touched feet with him. Is basically why he is religious. um and and Einstein still hasn't really come around. Right, we know that the siblings have it, and what is gonna happen with it? Like we're in the last like I think 25% or something of the book, and we still haven't really seen it. So are we going to gather the Ice Nine? Are we gonna save the world? Is that what's gonna happen? Not sure. you know. Um, so that's the overall overarching plot. Thematically, though, there are some interesting characters, and I'll mainly focus on one, the science character Asa Breed, and it seems like he's not really gonna make a return. Like we made the commentary about science early on in the book, and I feel like we're not gonna swing back around to it. Although who knows, maybe Kurt Vonnegut will swing us back around to it, but from the get-go there was always this sort of like thematic battle between religion, which we think of as like sort of outdated or foolish or unscientific and irrational, and then science, which we think of as progressive, logical, rational, and empirical, right? And we think of it that way, but actually the roles were sort of inverted, where we had the spokesperson of science, Asa Breed, feel like this sort of like weird, like a like an insecure, sort of touchy, sort of not pedantic, but like preachy, kind of culty sort of figure. And this narrator, which, our narrator isn't a perfect character either. This narrator tells us the little wisdom, these little nuggets of, oh my God, nuggets of wisdom from the religion, and they're kind of ridiculous, but they're sort of like ridiculous in a self-aware way, which sort of endears at least me to the religion itself. It doesn't feel as meaningless, even though it's sort of at face value, it kind of seems silly, but it feels like it's knowingly silly, and that kind of, for me, vibes more with Kurt Vonnegut himself, sort of like the world is burning, let's laugh, and let's make jokes about it. Like that's kind of his ethos, from what I gather. So I feel like that religion and sort of Kurt Vonnegut's worldview sort of do merge to some extent there. So that general theme is sort of always sort of hovering in the background for me as I'm reading this. All right, so that's enough for the preparatory work. Now let me get into my Kindle. All right, so here we go. Let me just quickly remember what happened in chapter 96. Dr. Vox Humana was the who was this guy? Oh, this is the minister of Papa, who is dying. Who also has, and I actually forgot to write this name down, but his doctor's name is Schlichter von Koenigswald. Okay. Okay. Papa wants to die. Let's see what happens. Papa Manzano. His merciless disease. Golden dingy. Dingy or dingy? I've actually never learned to pronounce that word. Let me just quickly check. Dingy. Yep. Tiller, Painter, Orlocks, all guilt. The lifeboat of Bakonan's old schooner, the Lady Slipper, was the lifeboat of the ship that they came to Lorenzo with. It's kind of funny. It's kind of weird. The symbol of the two who created the religion becomes the bed of the dictator. Okay. He's hot, about to die. He's angry. The size of a rifle cartridge, which is kind of vaguely not that ominous, I guess, but it's just sort of it characterizes him as the military sort of authoritarian dictator that he is. Oh, there was Ice 9 in it. Oh. Wait. So I guess Frank. So he got it from Frank. Okay, let's keep. So he got it from Frank, and Papa promoted Frank, something like that. His teeth chattered, his breathing was beyond control. Wait, and I suppose so. This is interesting. You know what's kind of complicated about this story? This complication is in the moment, John doesn't know it's Ice 9, but the narrator John, who is telling it to us in retrospect, does know that it's Ice 9. And I'm like, now I'm getting this vibe that like the whole world's gonna explode. Like, at the time I didn't know it was Ice 9. So, like, let's say we're in the present time. Let's say the narrator is speaking in the present time, and the proceedings of this story happened in the past time. Then what is the present world right now? Is this a sort of post-apocalyptic world? Like, where are we? It's sort of it creates a bit of uncertainty, and I guess it's a little bit unsettling to keep being reminded of all the times that the character John doesn't recognize Ice 9 when he sees it. Is that jarring, right? So just had to go back on that for a second. Papa? Goodbye. Papa gasped. I brought a friend. Goodbye. He's going to be the next president. Ice. He asked for ice. Von Koenigswald. When we bring it, he does not want it. Papa rolled his eyes. He relaxed his neck, took the weight of the body, arched his neck. Does not matter who is president. Good luck. Bakonin. I attempted a sophisticated reply. Tell him I am sorry I did not kill him. You will kill him. I mean, really. Teach people the truth. Teach the people truth. It's funny. The sort of absurd dialogue. Obviously, I can imagine why people are. What do you call it? I can imagine why people like. I can especially imagine why, like, high schoolers can get into Vonnegut because it's just so absurd. Tell him I'm sorry I did not kill him. Like. Teach them science. Science is magic that works. Okay. You know what? I made a wrong prediction at the very beginning of this stream. I said that we're not going to go back to this theme of science versus religion, but we are. It's just that we're not doing it through the voice of Asa Breed. We're doing it now through the voice of Papa. Last rites. Koenigswald called Dr. Vox Humana, the voice of humanity. So, he took his tranquilized chicken out of the hat box. This, you know what? There is a bit of ludicrousness, like irony here, where he, like, literally 3 lines before, Papa Manzano was saying science is magic that works, and then he gets a guy called Vox Humana to take a tranquilized chicken out of the hat box, which is very magic-y, and we are getting ready to do a religious ceremony at the very end, which is it's interesting because now on the side of science, we also have Christianity, which makes it not the science that we normally think of, and so it's a little bit complicated. It's like more of a stand-in for the religion of science as expressed through American culture, which, you know, is built around the military-industrial complex, I'm guessing, as well as the sort of general fundamentalist Christianity and all of that stuff. So that is what science means, I guess. And he actually tells him to leave and suddenly switches faith. I am Baconanist. Get out, you stinking Christian. Okay, just contradictions upon contradictions. I'm going to move on. Privileged to see the last rites of the Baconanist faith. No volunteers. So Dr. von Koenigswald said he would have a go. He had seen Julian Castle do it hundreds of times. Are you Baconanist? I agree with one idea. Yeah, so this Baconanism isn't really faith. You know what? Actually, in a way, the science that we're talking about in Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle is not just science, it's science and traditional religion together. And Baconanism is a sort of new religion. It's a sort of post-irony religion, you know? Like a postmodern religion where everything is sort of ironic and tongue-in-cheek. And like self-aware. So I'm pretty, you know what, I think I stand by that statement right now. I think it's a new religion versus traditional religion and science and the military industrial complex and all this other stuff together. I'm a very bad scientist. I will do anything to make a human being feel better, even if it's unscientific. Oh, it's kind of like which is, you know, it's kind of humane. Okay. He climbed into the golden boat with Papa. He wore sandals without socks. Okay, he does the Bokumaru with Papa. Dia meet ma. So Dr. von Koenigswald has a heavy German accent. Gott mate mutt, right? I'm not gonna pretend. Maybe I should learn to do impersonations in the future, but right now I can't. But yes, he has a heavy German accent, and Dia me met is the Lorenzen dialect. God got lonesome. God said, sit up. I was some of that mud. Lucky me. Lucky mud. Tears were streaming down. I kind of like that, actually. I kind of. Lucky me. Lucky mud. That's actually kind of beautiful. I, mud, sat up and saw what a nice job, which is such a dumb phrase God had done. Nice going, God. So stupid. Wait, I, mud, sat up. Lucky me, lucky mud. I actually, that's such a good line. Lucky me, lucky mud. Thank you, vote that on. Oh. Thank you, vote law on yo. Honor. Oh my god, that was hard to understand. Now Mud lies down again and goes to sleep. What memories for Mud to have. What interesting other kinds of sitting up Mud I met. I loved everything I saw. Good night. I will go to heaven now. I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait. And who was in my caress? And who was in my caress? You know, so what I like about I like that basically this entire chapter is a ritual, and this ritual does something interesting with our habits of reading. Okay, I was literally listening to a I was listening to a, or I was watching rather a YouTube video yesterday about speed reading because one of the members of my Discord server asked me about it. And if you speed read this, I mean, this is extremely easy to just kind of skim through, but that would completely miss the point of this chapter. I mean, it's not quote unquote efficiently written, you know? It's not like all of these repetitions are not efficiently written. They're the vast majority of this chapter is just two lines repeated after the other, and with some variation here and there to kind of break up the monotony. But if you have ever been to like a religious ceremony, including like weddings, you know, you'll have people repeat statements after the other, after the officiant or like the priest or whoever. And the way that I can enjoy this chapter is not by hurrying myself. The way that I can make myself feel the feelings is I just like imagine it. And to imagine it, it actually takes time. I'm imagining the scene, you know, a guy on his deathbed and this other guy, this scientist guy with this ridiculous name, who's a bad scientist. You know, he says, good night, good night. I will go to heaven now. I will go to heaven now. And you actually like slowing that down makes me feel the feelings more because I can imagine, I can kind of map on to all the other experiences that I've had in my life. And I mean, I didn't cry during this chapter, but I actually did feel a bit of I don't know if it came through my video, but Lucky Me, Lucky Mud kind of hit me. You know, it kind of hit me there. Like, whoa. It felt like in all this sort of ridiculousness that is surrounded in, this felt very, very true. Lucky me, Lucky Mud, you know? And even now when I'm talking about it, my eyes are getting a little bit what do you call it? I don't want to say wet because it's not fully wet, but I guess it's wet. So yeah, like to find out for certain what my Wambator was, to find out for certain what my Wambator was, and who was in my caress, and who was in my caress. Like if you kind of hear it slowly, right? you can actually feel the feelings more. Is my advice for reading this chapter, instead of just trying to be like information, and just move on. Oh my God, you would rip the heart out of this chapter if you just read it for the information. Chapter 100. I'm glad that you felt immersed. Actually, yeah, that's super. I'm glad we could share that experience. Down the oubliette goes Frank. Frank was useless. He's gonna do exactly what his job is supposed to be. So Frank is becoming sort of useless. Like lapdog is probably too derogatory. I'm trying to think of a different word, but like just like an obedient bureaucrat. And it's happened so suddenly that it's just like kind of jarring. And we're getting this celebration, the day of the 100 martyrs to democracy. And the ambassador, whose name is Horlick, is going to be part of it. My apotheosis. It's so, that's okay. I thought apotheosis has something to do with becoming a god, but I guess it's not. Oh no, it does have that meaning, but I guess it's not the first meaning. Okay. Um, you're the boss, sir. As though Frank were descending the rungs of a ladder into a deep shaft, while I was obliged to remain above. It's kind of, this abdication of responsibility is a little funny. Spiritual oubliette. Is that a? Oh, it's a real word. Oh, okay. I thought it was a Bakonan. I thought it was like a Bakonanism word. Oubliette. 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 So Frank is just spiraling down away from all the responsibilities, and this is kind of ominous because it means that John is gonna have to take on a lot more responsibility that Frank is running away from. So what does that mean? What does that entail? What horrible thing is it that Frank really doesn't want this job? Also, slightly ominously, Papa Manzano was like, it doesn't matter who the president is, ice, ice, ice. So he was kind of gesturing towards Ice 9, presumably, but what's going on there? So something menacing is about to happen. I wrote my speech, hopeful, humble, gotta lean on God. Now I found that I had to believe in it, and so I did. Okay, yeah. I will need the help of the people. Well, Julian Castle and his son had not been invited. Am I missing something about Julian Castle? Julian Castle is the American philanthropist, wealthy, hotel. Why would he not be invited? Because he's a Bakonanist? To invite them at once. As for Bakonin, I pondered asking him to join my government, thus bringing about a sort of millennium for my people. I thought of ordering that awful hook down. But then I understood that a millennium would have to offer more than a holy man. There would have to be food, homes, schools, health. It's interesting. That's an interesting commentary. I want to pause there. I guess the general sentiment is you can't sell people on purely an idea. You can't sell people on just an idea. You need to provide real things. And therefore, instead of purely symbolically marrying good and evil into one government, keep the good and the evil separate. Why would that even make sense? I'm like trying to think of like a philosophical like position that this vibes with. If you marry the good and the evil together into one government, and this is kind of like the separation of church and state idea, if you marry the church and the state into one government, but you can't give food and homes and health and schools and whatever, then you might as well not do it. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, how are those ideas even related? So I can't process this. I can't pin this idea down to anything I've heard of in the past. It's just a new idea altogether. It's intriguing, but I don't get it. So you guys, if you have any ideas on what that could mean, please share your thoughts. I'm gonna save that because it's an interesting thought to have, but I don't know what it means. Okay, so I'm gonna just keep that there. Okay, here we go. 102. Enemies of freedom. Your gang's done gone away. So the uppermost battlement. Now battlement is like a castle structure, right? Yeah, a parapet. Yeah. So we're at the spiral staircase in my tower. Okay, we're in that castle and now we're looking. Okay. Horlick Minton. H. Lowe Crosby. Julian Castle. Philip. We have Newton, the picture painter. His sister, who is married to Harrison C. Connors. My Heavenly Mona, Franklin Hoyniker, and lots of bureaucrats and military men dead. Interesting. So earlier I was talking about how Ice 9, the character John doesn't know about Ice 9, even though the narrator John does know about Ice 9, and it kind of, I feel like it must be Ice 9. There was a buffet. Crabs. Barracuda. Albatross. Pepsi Cola. Rum. Uniced. Uniced, which is like a interesting word. Not the way you normally phrase that. Coconut shells. The bouquet. Wait, the bouquet of the rum? What does that even mean? Like, oh, I didn't know bouquet could mean smell. So there's acetone in the rum? That's terrible. Okay. Um, that's not that's not that's not good. Because this is the local rum. It's terrible rum. Um, did a lot of ambassadorial gourmand saluting with his coconut, pretending to love all men and all beverages. H. Lowe Crosby, who plainly had no sense of smell, drinking acetone from his coconut. Okay, it's kind of ridiculous. Um, if you've never smelled acetone, it's not pleasant at all. I think it's the same. Am I right in associating it with the nail polish remover? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, not pleasant at all. He was looking out to sea. Just for reference, rum smells a lot better than acetone. Like, I mean, not everyone's gonna enjoy the smell of alcohol, but like, it's nothing like. They're nothing alike. There's targets, cardboard cutouts shaped like men. They're gonna be bombed by the planes. Each target was a caricature of a real person. The caricaturist was the Christian minister whose name is Vox Humana. You got it. There's Joe Stalin, hilarious. Fidel Castro, Hitler, Mussolini, some old Jap, old Karl Marx. Okay, yeah, it's very ridiculously kind of American. There's old Kaiser Bill, spiked hat and all, old Mao. Every enemy that freedom ever had out there. Okay. That's silly. But it's silly, but and in 2024, it might feel merely silly, but in 1963 or 1960, yeah, three, this is kind of how, like, there was a group of people who were so anti-communist, like it's the kind of thing they would take seriously. Like, I'm sure there were people who would want to do this in the 1960s. Azure is thinking about the good evil dichotomy and the provisioning of goods and entertainment and work for the people. I still don't have an answer for it, but I see what you're saying. I see you wrestling with it, and I think that's interesting. But I'll swing back around to it later if I have fuller thoughts. A medical opinion on the effects of a writer's strike, which is funny because it came out of nowhere. First of all, why is there a writer's strike? And then second of all, why are we getting a medical opinion on it? This has no connection to the previous chapter, as far as I can tell. No one knew that I was going to become president. He's going to throw his wreath. We'd shoot the targets. Frank would say a few words. Then there's a surprise speech by John. So I was treated like some sort of journalist, not like the future president. Hello, Mom, I said to Hazel Crosby. Hazel, the weirdo. This boy's a Hoosier. Um, the castles stood separate. They were unwelcome at Papa's palace, so they were curious why they were invited here. I mean, is it because the castles are Baconinists? They're openly Baconinists. That's why they're not. But they're Americans, so they can't kill them. They can't hook the Americans, so that's why they're not invited. I don't know. Young Castle called me Scoop. I'm thinking of calling a general strike of all writers. This is a kind of really random meta commentary. It's like, like, why are we suddenly talking about writers in the middle of something that has nothing to do with writers? And Kurt Vonnegut is a writer, so, and Shakespeare does the same thing. Like, writers talk about writing in their own writing. Just happens. Okay, so do writers have a right to strike? That would be like the police or firemen or professors. A sacred obligation to. That's like, on the one hand, that's like stupid, but also on the other hand, it's kind of, that also sounds kind of true, You have a sacred obligation to produce beauty and enlightenment and comfort at top speed. It's like, yeah. No books, plays, histories, or poems. And how proud would you be when people started dying like flies from the lack of beauty and enlightenment and comfort being produced at top speed? They died more like mad dogs. Putrescence of the heart or atrophy of the nervous system. Please keep writing. It's such a silly. I don't know putrescence, like putrescence. I'm thinking putrescence. Putrescence is not a. Okay, maybe putrescence is rotting. Putrescence of the heart or atrophy of the nervous system. Both of you, please keep writing. So we just had this random chapter where Philip Castle's like, should we go on strike? And it's a little sort of, it's a shout out. This chapter is a bit of a shout out to all the other writers in the 1960s. And the McCarthy era, when exactly does the McCarthy era begin? Just gonna quickly check. McCarthy era. It begins during the late 40s through the 50s. After the mid 50s, he loses his popularity. His accusations are found to be false. Can't speak. Okay, so this is after the McCarthy era, and maybe in the 60s we're kind of, maybe a bunch of writers at this time are kind of really thinking about the power that they have as writers. Do writers have any power at all? I feel like this little chapter is a shout out to that particular discourse, and just being like, hey, you have the power to keep people alive. And that's the general idea here. Okay. Arab is asking, am I going to do walkthroughs again? I mean, if there's stuff to walk through, I will walk through them. But right now, there's nothing to walk through. Chapter 104. Here we go. Sulfatiazole. I'm not going to bother pronouncing that. My heavenly Mona. Oops. Am I sharing the right screen? I am. Okay. My heavenly Mona did not approach me. She made a hostess of herself, introducing the Hoynekers to the San Lorenzans. lofty and cheap appraisals. Now he feels mixed feelings. Okay, doesn't exactly know whether he thinks she is this amazing goddess or I don't know, a sham. Does she? I don't. I'm trying to avoid using the word cheap for a woman. Did she represent the highest form of female spirituality, or was she a cold fish, an addict of the xylophone, which is so stupid? The cult of beauty and Bokomaru I shall never know. A lover's a liar, to himself he lies. The truthful are loveless like oysters, their eyes. That's actually kind of interesting. I kind of like that. It's something I thought about kind of relatively recently. A lover's a liar, to himself he lies. The truthful are loveless like oysters their eyes. That's actually pretty good. Okay, I'm going to include the Bakunin tells us in front. You know what? I will elaborate on this in just like a couple sentences, but I will say the idea that I was thinking about relatively recently was romantic love, in particular, is a fiction that we tell ourselves. It's a sort of special fiction that we tell ourselves because an extraordinary fiction that we tell ourselves because we need a extraordinary justification for an extraordinary relationship, which is a monogamous, unbounded, like coupling. So you just like you're committing to be somebody's forever partner, and that requires a sort of special justificatory apparatus to be all technical about it, and thinking about it in a kind of rational way and truth-seeking way, and being scientific, quote unquote, about it is actually not going to serve you in the end. Is sort of my take on this little aphorism here. Okay, continuing. Tell me, have you spoken to H. Lowe Crosby today? Oh, that's a business guy. He didn't recognize me with a suit, right? Because this is the hippie artist guy. I found I was no longer amused by Crosby. I'm now very respectful of this bicycle factory. Okay, it's interesting. What we just did is, now that he is the president, he has to suddenly care about economy and the economy. So it's kind of an interesting flip of a character. Fishing, fornication, and Baconinism. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good life, to be honest. Wait, was it Eat, Pray, Love? This is like Eat, Fuck, Pray. Okay, that's pretty good. You know? Don't you think they could be interested in progress? The electric guitar. Yeah, that's also pretty good. Eat, fuck, pray, jam. Eat, fuck, pray, jam. He's against science. How can you be against science? Okay, okay. You know what? This battle that I thought we were sort of letting go, this battle between science and religion, is actually back in the forefront now. We're being explicit about it. By the way, we're talking about Frank. Oh no, we're talking about Bakonin. I'd be dead now if it wasn't for penicillin, said Hazel, and so would my mother. How old is your mother? 106. Isn't that wonderful? It certainly is. It's actually interesting. I'd be dead now if it wasn't for penicillin is like a it's a that phrasing is a sort of religious phrasing, right? Oh, I'd be X now if it wasn't for God. I'd be this way now if it wasn't for God. Who would I be if it weren't for you, God? What would I be if it weren't for you, God? So it's not the kind of phrasing. I don't think people talk like this. People don't say, "Oh, I'd be dead now if it wasn't for the COVID vaccine." I mean, maybe some people do talk about it, but if you do talk about it that way, it does sound a little bit like you kind of feed a certain narrative. So I yeah, that just kind of highlights that sort of contact, that thematic battle there. It certainly is wonderful. Honey, what was the name of that stuff? Sulfatiazole. Okay, an albatross. I actually never learned how to pronounce this. Canapé. Is that canapé or canapé? Okay, whatever. Canapé. Painkiller. As it happened, as it was supposed to happen, albatross meat disagreed with me. I availed myself of one adjacent to Papa's suite. He had a wild look. What is it? What was he had hanging around his neck? He took it, and now he's dead. Ooh. He took the Ice 9. Okay. Cyanide? Oh, he turned into cement. Okay. The water. Wait, isn't it? I thought Ice 9 was going to make everything solid. Oh, maybe everything that's supposed to be continuous. Okay. So he did want to die. The guy did want to die, Papa Manzano, and so he just killed himself. But my sort of question is, does it stop at his body or does it keep going? I'm guessing it's going to stop at his body. Okay, it's just the solidification of matter is going to stop there. His corpse did not look at rest. His head was bent back as far as it would go, which is kind of grotesque. His weight rested on the crown of his head. What? Oh, he was turned into like a circle. I don't know what andiron. Wait, I want to know what this looks like. Andiron. Wait, which part of the andiron are we describing right now? But anyway, we have this is roughly what I'm imagining here. So he died in bridge position is the general idea. Okay. One hand held the cylinder. It was uncapped. And the thumb and index finger were stuck between his teeth. He died instantly. Papa sounded like a marimba. That's okay. Uh okay, there's a bunch of vocabulary, so I just kind of want to I'm not gonna remember this, but it's might as well like learn some of this stuff. Is it toe pin? So Orlock is, I think I'm assuming Orlock is the okay. Fine, whatever. Gun whale. Okay, gun whale. Okay, that's like the wall basically. Okay. Slip the toe pin of an oarlock from its socket in the gunwale of the gilded dinghy. With the oarlock, it sounded like a marimba. Hilarious. uh, his he's blue white. It's not a novelty now. Okay, I just learned it. It's not a novelty now. We just got a lot of foreshadowing just from that one sentence. Okay, it was something I was wondering about for a while. Here's, you can see the heads of my cats right there, just at the bottom over here. It's distracted. So the thing that I just learned is that in the narrator John's world, Ice Nine is common. In the narrator John's world, we are in a post-apocalyptic scenario. So we kind of know the ending to some extent now. We know that whatever the ending is, it has to lead to an apocalypse. Okay. Pun intended. Yeah. What Bakonas say when they commit suicide? Dr. von Koenigswald, the humanitarian with a terrible deficit of Auschwitz in his kindliness account. Did we mention something? Oh, was he? Oh, it wasn't. This character was one who was part of Auschwitz. Yes, but then he's now trying to make amends by being here. Right, he was a horrible. Okay. He was the second to die of Ice Nine. He was talking about rigor mortis. Rigor mortis doesn't happen that quickly. He dived right away. Now I will destroy the whole world. What did he mean by that? It's what Bakonin is always saying when they're about to commit suicide. Von Koenigswald went to a basin, washed his hands. Ooh, interesting. I'm trying to remember the biblical allusion. Let me quickly remember Pilates, Pilate. Wait, Pontius Pilate. I just said Pilates. Sorry. Wash hands. Doesn't he do that? Pontius Pilate. He was supposed to keep the peace, keep the taxes flowing. He didn't want to crucify Jesus, escalate the situation, even get him fired. He washed his hands as a symbolic refusal to execute an innocent person. He washes the hands in full sight of God. Wash his hands before the multitude. I'm innocent of the blood of this person. Okay. I mean, that's not exactly connected, but washing the hands in the basin, for me, in that biblical image, it's hard for me to avoid. Especially when somebody is about to die, and, you know, in the Bible, it's Jesus is about to die, and here it's what's his name? It's Papa about to die. I brushed my finger over his lips. What? There we go. His hands poised over the water. He was dead, as hard as a statue. That must be a typo again. We're getting two typos. Just as you see him, I brushed my finger over his lips. He put his hands into the water. The question trailed off. Raised his hands. And the water in the basin came with the hands. It was no longer water, but a hemisphere of ice 9. There we go. There we go. Okay, so physically it's a little confusing to Pontius Pilates. It's it's interesting to like physically it's like there's water like everywhere, so it's like kind of strange that you have to physically touch like liquid water in order to activate the killing effect. But so when I say interesting, it seems like it seems kind of physically implausible that you'd have some limitation like that. But fine, we have this sort of dramatic situation where touching the water will kill you. Feast your eyes. Frank had given Papa ice 9. Wait. I let the 3 children into Papa's bedroom. My mood was bitter and grand. I had seen it often. There could be no doubt that Frank gave Papa ice 9. Okay, there we go. That's what I said earlier. And it seems certain that if ice 9 were Frank's to give, then it was Angela's to give and little Newt's to give. So apparently Angela and little Newt could have given ice 9. And for Angela, it would be her shockingly beautiful husband, and for Newt, I don't know if he gave. So I snarled at them. The jig is up. Ice 9's gonna end life on Earth. I was very impressive. Feast your eyes, I said. Behold the man. Feast your eyes on the power of Ice 9. And then there's like a dead guy who is in a bridge position, frozen to death. It's kind of a ridiculous scene, actually, and it's a ridiculous thing to say in that scene. Like, anyway, God never wrote a good play in his life. But the first reply from a Vonnegut destroyed all the magnificence of this ridiculous scene. Little Newt threw up. I'm kind of scared because there's water in throw up as well. Like, does that count as Ice 9 territory? Frank tells us what to do, and then we all wanted to throw up. Newt certainly did what was called for. I couldn't agree more, I told Newt. So Newt is throwing up, and then imagine saying that to a guy throwing up. I couldn't agree more. Like, that's such a stupid reaction. I snarled at Angela and Frank. Now that we got Newt's opinion, I'd like to hear what you two have to say. And then Angela is starting to throw up. Frank was breathing shallowly, like a dog, like the dog. Oh, something happened to a dog before, apparently. There was scarcely any wind behind the whisper. But such were the acoustics of the room. We all heard the whisper. Christmas Eve. I think the day when Newt was underneath the bed, was it something like that? That's the way I remember the scene. Newt was underneath the bed and watching his father play with a string. That day was Christmas Eve. I am pretty sure. Actually, you know what? I could just double check, right? I could just do a quick search. Yeah, he died on Christmas Eve. All right. I mean, I think that's the same day, but whatever. Newt was talking to himself, and the dog I intruded on him, it felt like. He talked to his brother in that nightmare. You gave it to him. Wait. Told Frank. That's how you got this fancy job, isn't it? Yeah. So, Newt is saying, Frank, you gave Ice Nine to Papa, and that's how you got to become the general. You got something better than the hydrogen bomb, so we are mentioning the hydrogen bomb directly. He was looking around the room intently. His color was coming back. Listen, we've got to clean up this mess. Okay, so Frank is now he's admitting that he gave it to the Papa. Chapter 109. Chats. Let's see. The physics is broken. Okay, yeah, you agree with that part. Cosplaying as ruler. Yes, he definitely is. He is feeling impressive. John is. And Cat's Cradle Day. You're right. You're totally right. The Cat's Cradle Day was the day that the bomb dropped, which is not Christmas Eve. But Christmas Eve is a separate day. Wait, this is making me think things. Give me a sec. Christmas Eve is a separate day where he dies, but also talks about Ice Nine and lets the... Also, just randomly, by the way, Christmas Eve, we, at least in the American folklore, we have like snowflakes and stuff like that. Snowflakes have crystalline structure. Ice Nine has a crystalline structure, and it's sort of pretty. And okay, I'll just stop there. But I just had that random image come to my mind. That's also the day that Felix Hoyniker sort of passes off the Ice Nine to the children. I don't know if he intentionally gave it to them or if they took it. I don't remember that part. But anyway, they all got Ice Nine that day. So that is a very bad day, I guess. But also, Cat's Cradle, Newt was watching his father play with a string and the Cat's Cradle, and then later on Newt makes a painting that's kind of like a Cat's Cradle and sort of like dark and abstract and scary. So I'm getting the Cat's Cradle image, I'm getting crystal image, and for the very first time in this entire reading reaction, I'm noticing that Cat's Cradle has, like, when you put all those strings together, it kind of has like a crystalline structure, So, hey, angles, triangles, yay. All right, that's just a random. I just did a bit of mental masturbation there. I was just sort of like sorting it out in my head. I wasn't trying to do that, but anyway, I just have water and crystals and Ice Nine and Cat's Cradles all sort of mushing into my head. Okay, and I just wanted to share that. All right, chapter 109. Frank defends himself. General. I told Frank. Listen, we've got to clean up this mess. General, I told Frank, that must be one of the most cogent statements made by a major general this year. As my technical advisor, how do you recommend that we clean up this mess? A straight answer. Now he's being less dumb. He's disassociating himself from the cause of the mess. Now he's the solution for the mess. Brooms, dustpans, blowtorch. Commanded, snapping. A blowtorch to the bodies was so charged with technical thinking. This is so stupid and so funny. He's charged with technical thinking like it's some sort of superpower. Now that he is practically tap dancing to the music of his fingers. We'll sweep up the big pieces on the floor, melt them in a bucket on a hot plate. We'll go over every square inch of the floor with a blowtorch. A funeral pyre. We'll have a great big funeral pyre by the hook. How could you? She wants to know. Everything's gonna be all right. How could you give it to a man like Papa Manzano? Let's keep the mess first, then we can talk. Oh, this is actually kind of funny. The implicit criticism here is that science solves problems, but actually it creates its own problems that it's solving. That's the implicit criticism here. Um, like, just to extrapolate it to the A bomb, the atomic bomb, you know, uh, science, the science that made the atom bomb possible solved the problem of Japan, I guess. But then Japan, the whole reason Japan became the force that it became was because they were also using science to have outsized military prowess in that region. And I don't know if you know about the dark history of some of their scientific experiments, but they were pretty brutal with their scientific experiments for um, um, learning the limits of human biology, for example. So Japan Japan's science was just out-scienced by the American science, and so was the Nazi science. The Nazi science was out-scienced by American science. Um, so it's just science beating science, and that is something that seems to be alluded to by the fact that Frank is completely forgetting that he created the entire problem in the first place. How could you? She shook him. Frank pried his sister's hands from himself. His glassy smile went away, and he turned nasty for a moment. I bought myself a job just the way you bought yourself a tomcat husband, just the way Newt bought himself a week on Cape Cod with a Russian midget. Okay, that's actually really bad. And I just forgot that Newt had this whole thing with the Russian uh, uh, the Russian little person. Um, So first of all, what's a tomcat? Let me just figure that out. Tomcat. So this is on the American side, I'm assuming. Oh, oh, a womanizer. I didn't know that, or I did know that a long time ago, but I completely forgot about that. So this American womanizer, Harrison Connors, I think, was his name. I think works for the American government, right? And the um, the Russian little person is a spy for Russia. So actually, in the whole scheme of things, giving it to the San Lorenzo guy, which is, I guess now that kind of stands for, is that standing for Cuba now? I don't know enough about Cuban history to know if this matches up with Cuba, but giving it to Fidel Castro, no, this is not Cuba because Fidel Castro was the communist, so it doesn't match up. San Lorenzo is the American outpost, so what does that stand for? I don't know enough Caribbean history to make that connection. But giving it to San Lorenzo is probably the lesser of the evils. Giving it to Russia and to U.S. is much worse. So if anything, Frank did less damage, which makes it more complicated. Um, Chapter 110. Three more chapters. Here we go. Sometimes the pulpa exceeds the power of humans to comment. Pulpa is the shitstorm or the wrath of God. Um, yes, sometimes the shitstorm makes us dumbfounded. And right now, the shitstorm is huge. It is Ice Nine in the hands of the U.S., Russia, and San Lorenzo. And we're seeing it through the microscopic world of San Lorenzo. Interesting, and actually kind of a beautiful literary setup, actually. Um, we're kind of, because if you're an American reader in the 1960s, you're in the middle of the Cold War, and this book doesn't place the horrible, horrible power. It doesn't try to zoom in on what the U.S. would do with Ice Nine. It doesn't try to zoom in on what Russia will do with Ice Nine. It just leaves it up to your imagination. It suggests what the U.S. or Russia could do with Ice 9 / the H bomb by focusing on this fictional island, focusing on San Lorenzo. And so now you have to, it's on you to imagine the horrific ramifications. Okay. While also laughing, by the way, the whole time because of how ridiculous it is. So it's kind of complicated. It's like we're all doomed. We're all gonna die. Haha. That's sort of the tone here. Oh, and yes, okay. So we're literally okay spelling it out. I'm glad that I was one step ahead, but yeah, I mean, sure. Um, the United States had obtained it through Angela's husband. Okay, of course. Homicidal German Shepherds. Okay, and Soviet Russia had come in through Zinka. That's the name of the spy. I was without comment. I bowed my head. I closed my eye. I await. Ooh, man, a lot happened. A lot happened in the last like 10 chapters. Holy crap. I bowed my head. I closed my eye. One bedroom out of all bedrooms, a bedroom infested with ice. I bowed my head, closed my eyes. Oh, the stupid tools, the really dumb like torch and whatever. How he's gonna solve a cataclysmic event with a torch. Somewhere in that violet velvet oblivion, I heard Angela say something to me. Newt didn't give it to her, she stole it. Okay, what hope can there be for mankind when such men as Felix Hoenicker can just give toys to their children, and then their children just get it stolen from? And I remembered the 14th book of Bokonon. What can a thoughtful man hope for mankind on earth, given the experience of the past million years? Nothing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're just double checking the chat, but yeah, right now yeah. This what's the word for shit show? The word for shit show was eh, eh? I missed it. It's down here somewhere. Pulpa, the pulpa. Etymologically, why is it pulpa, pulpa, poopa, 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 poopa? Is it just poopa? Is Kurt Vonnegut making a shit joke? Poopa, poopa, like poopy, poopy, pulpa, shit show, Wrath of God. Is that what that is? Um, Even if that's not what it is, that's the way I'm gonna remember it now. It's poopy pulpa. Frank came back with these things. Okay. It would be silly if this actually solves the problem. I'm gonna guess it isn't gonna solve the problem. That's my prediction. Hot plate on the xylophone, because his technical brain is on right now. We picked up the bigger chunks of ice 9 from the floor. They melted. Oh, they became water. Oh, maybe it will work. The brainless serenity of charwoman and charwoman, is that a word? And janitors working out late at night came over us. I'm gonna look it up. Is that a real word? Oh, it is a word. I saw 2 typos already, so it made me start doubting this addition. Although putrescence could be maybe an older spelling of putrescence, but what was that other typo, like statute instead of statue? Yeah, that made me lose trust in this edition. What edition is this? Am I not buy? I think I bought like an expensive edition, like a proper edition, right? This is a division of Random House. Yeah, so Boo. Anyway. But yes, charwoman is an actual word. It's a cleaning job. I heard myself asking Newt Angela Frank to talk about Christmas Eve, about the dog. Here's the tale. The tale went like this, which is like an interesting way to say that, set up that story. Makes it sound like old school fairy tales. On that fateful Christmas Eve, Angela went into the village for Christmas tree lights. Lonely winter beach where they met a black lab. The dog was friendly, as all labs are. Frank and little Newt go home. And Felix is at home, I think. Yeah. Felix Hoenecker died while his children were gone. All day, the old man had been teasing his children about Ice Nine. Danger, Ice Nine, keep away from moisture. All day long, the old man had been nagging his children with words like these. Stretch your minds a little. Its melting point is 114.4 degrees of Fahrenheit. It's just hydrogen and oxygen. What could the explanation be? Think a little. Stretch our brains. Oh, so apparently it... Okay, actually, apparently the blowtorch is good enough if you only need 114.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So, surprisingly easy to dismantle. Puddly games. Water, pots, pans, Ice Nine. Converting water to Ice Nine, back to water again. Oh. It's like scarily accessible. Okay. A meat thermometer was out. Part of the disorder was a saucepan filled with Ice Nine. He meant to melt it up, but obviously the dog licks it or something. Any man can call timeout, but no man can say how long the timeout will be. Huh. Okay, so final chapter for today, 112. And what was sort of interesting slash, disturbing about this chapter is the callback to the original characterization of Felix Hoenecker. Felix Hoenecker, when we first learn about him, when John goes to Ithaca or... Okay, I forgot the name of the town. Ilium in New York, and does his initial research about Felix. We learn that Felix is a playful sort of fellow. He's just playing games all the time, and he'll be quirky. He'll just like park his car in the middle of a street, and he's just having fun with science. And it's a bit like I don't know why Dragon Ball Z was the first image to come to mind. It just came. It's a bit like Majin Buu, or I don't remember Buu very well because I actually didn't properly watch the Buu saga. But it's a bit like, or maybe Kid Buu, the big fat plump one. The sort of agent of chaos that's sort of just laughing all the time and having and playing around, but has this immense power, the power to destroy people in the world. So, and that trope gets played out through religion, actually. I think in Hinduism, I think in Hinduism we have characters like that, although I'm not too well versed in Hinduism. And we also have that kind of character in like the Batman, the Christian Bale Batman series, right? We have the Joker, yeah. Sort of just the agent of chaos. Now the Joker is a lot more dark about it, and he doesn't seem that playful. whereas Felix Hoenicker does seem playful, but in this sort of scarily dangerous way. And so when I was reading chapter 111, I had this sort of like a sense of perturbation, like this sort of sense of like feeling a little bit uncomfortable in my gut. Is that, that because I can imagine somebody not taking seriously the repercussions of their actions, and that just being world changing. I can imagine that being real. So that was my reaction to chapter 111. Let's keep going. Final chapter today. Newt's mother's reticule. Now, reticule is not reticle, so I don't know what a reticule is. Okay. It's a bag. Got it. Now, let me just double check the pronunciation. Reticule. Reticule. I was correct. I should have known he was dead the minute I came in. That wicker chair. Oh, this is back in the story still. This is when the way they take the dog back to the home. Angela had assumed he was sleeping, came in with the lab. There was water on the floor. The dish rag fell into the pan. The pan contained some sort of cake frosting and he held it down to Newt. The dish rag had a peculiar metallic, snaky quality now. It reminded me of Mother's reticule. Treasured his mother's reticule. I wonder whatever happened to it. Newt held it out to the dog so they avoid death. The dog licks it and freezes stiff. Went to tell his father about the dog and found out that his father was stiff too. Okay. I got what I wanted. I wanted to see Ice Nine. I was waiting for it for so long. I really thought Kurt Vonnegut was sort of I don't know, because I just I've read Fahrenheit. I forgot the number. Fahrenheit what? 451. Okay. Oh no, that what? That's sorry. That's Ray Bradbury. I meant Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse 5, and the only connection between Fahrenheit 451 and Slaughterhouse 5 is that they have a number in it. My bad. It's so stupid. I have the worst memory. So the I've read Slaughterhouse 5 before. It was a long time ago. I don't really remember very well, as you could probably guess. I don't remember if it was very plot driven, but I get the sense that Kurt Vonnegut isn't that plot driven. That said, this whole Ice Nine object is such a powerful object. Like there's no way around it. I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And during this time, Kurt Vonnegut was largely just building out the world. And we're sort of triangulating very slowly around Ice Nine. So by the time that we finally got Ice Nine in the last 16 chapters, I really was waiting for it for quite a long time. So I finally got it. Now we're in the final act. The Pulpa, has broken loose. And we need to clean up the mess, according to Frank. And we're going to clean up the mess by torching it. Okay, so it's a very easy fix. But it's in the hands of the U.S. and the Soviet Union. So I'm going to guess that by the end of the story, we're never going to take Ice Nine out of the hands of the U.S. and the Soviet Union. This story will not end prettily. Can't speak. Will not end prettily. So it ends knowing that, all I can expect is that they're going to make a final attempt. They're going to fail. And along the way, I guess we're going to have some laughs. And by the end, we will laugh at the ridiculousness of the way they fail to save the world. And we will also feel kind of bad. We will feel kind of bad because it will indicate a truth about the world that we know, which is that we're all kind of fucked. And this world can always implode at any moment, and I think that's what's going to happen by the end of this story. Okay, so Azure, for a book centered on this science fiction concept, you expected it to be less character and world focused, would be more about the be more about the technology and the themes. And I guess for science fiction, that is my with my very, very brief skirmishes with science fiction, I do get the sense that the genre of science fiction tends to be pretty heavy on the themes, and the sort of implications of science, and imagining future realities based on actual science that's happening right now. And I think some of the draw of science fiction is that previous science fiction has predicted real technologies that are becoming realized or have become realized in the last couple of decades. So I think I'm not a science fiction reader really. I've read some Ted Chiang, but I don't know if that really counts because he's more philosophical science fiction. It's a little bit different. Although I do think his fiction does hint at a lot of interesting implications for AI. But kind of canonical science fiction isn't. I'm not too familiar with. My gut feeling though says with my brief skirmishes there and my reading of Kurt Vonnegut here is that Kurt Vonnegut is much more of a literary fiction writer. He's much more about people and society and what we would normally consider like literary, like in the tradition of literary fiction, literary American fiction. So different. I kind of think it's like a different, just a different bag for different audiences. This bag has more characters. The world building though is definitely the fantasy elements, maybe sci-fi elements of the world building. Definitely doesn't go all in like a Tolkien would or like a science fiction writer would, but Kurt Vonnegut does spend some time building out this world, but largely through characters. Actually, probably 100% through characters. I think he never really builds out the world without a character to filter it through. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the case. So very character oriented. Yeah, this is really fun. I'm happy to be at the final mile now. So I'll see. I'm looking forward to the next stream to wrap this one up. I've made my prediction already, so we'll see how it ends. I'll see you in the next stream 2 days from now, same time. Until then, keep on learning, keep on growing. Thanks as always, Azure, for joining. Peace.